Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Kyle Schrum and Joe Courtney. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
How's it going?
How is life back from a mountain, Joe?
I can breathe so much better. Oxygen is just so good. It's good for you.
Yeah.
It feels good. I missed it.
All right. Starting with the Garage Gym Athlete shout out. Talk about Joe's mountain trip in a minute. I am giving a shout out to Courtney Morse. So this is one that recently concluded. He was training for an ultra marathon and completed it. So Courtney, longtime athlete, congrats on doing that. It was pretty awesome. And, funny story about Courtney. He posted this in the group as well, but he's had what is it, Kyle? I know you saw it, a 2,000% increase in his fitness since,
yeah.
And it's tracked through, I think it's Strava is the app that was tracking that, based off of work points or whatever, before he was training with us. But he also, I had a candid conversation with him about, he hired an additional coach with additional programming to prep for this. He thought it was going to be necessary, and paying a lot more than Garage Gym Athlete costs. He still held on to his Garage Gym Athlete membership. Like I said, it was supplemental training. But he was severely let down, not because his performance in the ultramarathon was poor, but he just said the programming wasn't great. I'm not throwing any specific coach under the bus, so I'm not going to mention who it was or anything like that, but cost a lot more. Programming was worse, probably less interaction with a coach than he gets with paying $25 a month here. So yeah, that's just nice to hear. I don't spend a lot of time personally looking at other programs and what they do and do not do. I just really try to keep my focus on being the best that we can be. And I'm glad to hear that from him. So that was awesome. So a shout out to him on the compliment he gave our training, and also a shout out to him for completing something that was absolutely phenomenal. So good job, Courtney.
Yeah, ultras are serious.
Yeah, no joke.
It's next level stuff, man.
Not interested.
Nope.
I don't want to do that. I'll ride. I might be riding the bike race with him this year. We'll see how it goes. But how's life? How updates? Let's get through these. Joe's been gone forever. I don't know. Joe.
Well, with us, yes, it's been.
Probably go first.
Well, there wasn't there wasn't an official passing on, but yeah, even though, so when this will publish a week ago, I had just announced to the listeners that I was going to Tanzania climbing a mountain, and now I'm back. But I've actually been gone for 3 weeks, so we haven't chatted in a while. Yeah, it was an experience. It was serious. There was a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and not just altitude wise. That was not even a pun intended.
You met yourself.
100%.
Great.
Liz and I were talking afterwards, and we were saying that this is definitely the hardest thing we've done physically and mentally. The physical part wasn't even that bad. It was just every day it leads and taxes a little bit more, and then on summit day it all just that was really difficult. Also, I didn't even say this, but Liz did, because we were talking about how meeting yourself, and Liz was like, I think we're going to meet yourself Saturdays for the next year. I think we met ourselves that many times this year. I was like, cool. I didn't say it. You did.
I would say that you've maybe caught up to what you haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more like you've paid your debt.
Damn.
And now we're even. And so it's time to start practicing those some more.
Yeah, it was rough. Basically sleep deprived. It's cold and wet, and you just get colder as you go up, and it's the rainy season. So like, there's almost no tourists there because it's the rainy season and just travel
You're
in
like,
general.
wait, did I pick a bad time?
Yeah, right.
No one else told me.
Yeah, and then on summit day, we literally started at 1 a.m. to climb, so you pretty much don't get sleep for a night, and then it gets super super ridiculously cold getting up there. And yeah, it was an experience. So I don't know how much I'll I can talk more about it in the future, and like I'm making a video as well, and we can get more into details other times. But if you guys have any other questions, curiosities,
I have no questions. I think we might do an AMA on it where I'll ask you questions. I think that would be good. So that's coming, listeners.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pep you with questions right now, but I do have quite a few questions that we could probably save for an AMA.
Cool. Yeah, that's probably kind of what I was thinking. The one little snippet that I'll actually just give now for that is, if you want to climb a mountain or do one of these things and be successful at it, pretty much the main tips that I have are all the EO3 elements, like building that into your everyday routine and just like making it second nature, because all of those things are what really help you succeed during. And that's why Liz and I like excelled much better than most people. I think it wasn't even like being physically in shape. It was just keeping those things habitual, having those things be second nature.
That's good to hear.
All right, Kyle,
Love it.
what's been going on with you? I mean,
Okay,
you gave us some sad news today.
Did you get a new chicken fry or something?
Yeah, right. How's the air fryer?
It's getting shots fired all over the place. I actually got a message on Facebook Messenger from somebody who listened to that episode and said, "Hey man, it's all good. I have an air fryer at home too, and I love it." So
well, anytime I think of Joe climbing a mountain now, I think of your air fryer. It's like a permanently connected thing.
And Kyle, your one message about your air fryer is one more message than I got about my mountain. So
no one cares.
People
don't like to hear when people are doing cool stuff. They only want to hear when your life's not going well.
You went on a trip to do something really grueling. Like no one cares. But okay, yes, I did have
more about this air fryer.
I did have tragedy strike this morning. My my French press broke, so I have to wait until a new one comes in before I can make coffee at home again. So that did happen. My official update I was going to talk about, and I thought it was a good one until Joe decided to show up and talk about climbing a mountain. A few weeks ago, I actually did a 2-week carnivore experiment. So I did the carnivore diet for a couple of weeks just to kind of eliminate some things, try to zero in on my migraines had come back at that point. And so I was like, well, let's just throw a bunch of stuff out and narrow it down to just a few things. And so it went pretty well. I was actually my biggest takeaway was how bored I was with the food I was eating.
So meat only for 2 weeks.
Meat
what were you
eggs.
Eating? Steak, eggs, you said? Okay.
Yep, meat and eggs. I ate a lot of chicken.
That's surprising.
Some bison. Threw some bison in there. And I did have some steak as well. So and ground beef too.
Seems like chicken would be a bad meat to go carnivore on because it's so lean.
Yeah. I was just it was an
winging
experiment.
it.
Yeah, I was just winging it.
You're like, I didn't research anything.
I didn't really throw,
Well, he said he started cutting out food, and it was like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I guess all that leaves is meat.
I'll just
chicken breast, 100% protein diet. Yeah, no fat.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll probably do it a little bit different if I do it again in the future. But I was shocked at how bored I was because I really like meat, and I was like, hey, this sounds good. It's really simple. And then I was like, you know what? I actually like a few veggies with my meat. I kind of missed that. So I did feel better. Migraines went away. I didn't have any bloating issues or anything like that either. So I'm kind of zeroing in. I think I'm pretty dang sensitive to carbs apparently. So I haven't added any of those back. I've added a few vegetables and stuff back, but like, anyway, so I would say I'm pretty close to keto now more than carnivore. I'm not strict carnivore, but I'm closer to keto now than I was before, and just added a few things back. So things are going well after that, but the carnivore experiment was mixed results. So anyway, that's my update. That's all I wanted to say.
That's good. That's cool.
And yes, I did cook some of that stuff in my air fryer. So
tying it all together.
Just throw it all in there.
All right, updates for me. As we speak, I see people walking outside. They are installing the windows on EO3 HQ, which means today we will officially be dried in. Roofs on, doors are on, windows are about to be on. So we'll be dried in, and I don't know. All the exterior stuff is basically done. It's more of the interior. I don't know how long any of that's going to take. So still a novice in construction. I don't know if I'm like 2 months away from being done or 8 months. I have no idea, but there is a structure that I could go in right now and not get rained on. So cool. Once I get the internet out there, I don't really know what's stopping me other than summer's coming and it's brutal. The AC's not working.
According to all I know from what I've learned watching HGTV, at about the point that the windows go in, that's like 65% of the episode done. So you got like 35% left.
Yeah. And so, I mean,
science.
And they do it normally in an hour on the show. So yeah, I'm like an hour away from being done, really.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds logic to me. That math adds up.
Yeah. Yep. Now, the other update I had is my back. My back is getting quite a bit better. I feel like I'm stuck at like this 85 to 90% improvement. To where as far as I'm coming back, and I refuse to lift heavy weight or run until I'm 100%. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but normally I would at 90 to 95%, I'd be like, okay, let's get back to it. But my back pain was so severe at its worst that I'm too scared to do that. And so I'm not going to be doing anything. And that's just an update for everybody who's interested in this stuff. We'll see. If I can't get back to normal, I am going to completely pull the plug on going for any sort of back squat or mile time beyond what I've already achieved. And that's where my mind is at right now. I'm going to continue with the training how I have, but I'm doing BCT so watered down at the moment that it's like, I even feel bad for people like Kyle who are doing the training, and it's transitioned to a little bit less squatting and stuff, especially the way we're doing right now. I'm able to do most of it because there's deadlifting and pressing and things that I can do 100%. But like when it gets to the squatting and the running, I'm just doing so much of different variations that it's just like, I don't know. We'll see. So I'll keep everybody updated, but I'm kind of stuck in my progressions. I do feel a lot better, but I'm just not getting all the way there. So I don't know. Maybe just need more time. But that's it for updates. Talk studies.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about breakfast today as the study. The actual name of the study is Association Between Breakfast Skipping and Body Weight, a systematic review and meta-analysis of observational longitudinal studies. So this was officially published in January of 2021. And in total, 9 studies were included in the review, and 3 of them were included in the meta-analysis. And I just found a big part of like me looking at these studies is I just jumped to like, why'd you do this? Like, why are you interested in this? Because we cross a lot of studies that are just like, what's the point? And this one is a free study. Not all the studies that we do are free, just so everybody knows. Like if you've ever Googled the study, and this is just for the listeners, and you get like this short paragraph called the abstract, you're missing so much of the study. It's kind of hilarious. So if you think that that's all we're reading when we jump into these, it's not. And most of the time they're not free, but this one is 100% free. So you can go check it out. And this one had a very awesome introduction. And their introduction is where they really open up why they're doing it, the history behind things. And sometimes I'm like, okay, cool. And sometimes it's not that interesting, but this one was. And I wanted to read a little bit of it, not the whole thing, just for some takeaways from the introduction. In their introductions, they said, nowadays, the world is experiencing an obesity epidemic. In 2016, 39% of adults were overweight and 13% were obese worldwide. Thus, obesity's prevalence is 3-fold higher than in 1975 and is still rising. For example, the prognosis for the United United Kingdom estimates that approximately 60% of men and 50% of women will be obese by 2050. Today, the majority of countries around the world are affected by obesity prevalence rates above 10%, and estimates suggest a rise to 20% of the world's population being affected by obesity by 2025. We're not that far away. The study was published in 2021. This is not an old study. Globally, this rapid increase in the prevalence of overweight and obesity is one of the most important health issues. And they said obesity is multifactorial, but the fundamental determinant is the positive energy balance. This is mostly determined by high energy intake through inappropriate nutrition and low energy expenditure through physical inactivity. If you listen to this podcast, or the three of us, like, we almost know too much. Okay. We have so much information in our brains about health and fitness that, like, it's like oozing out of our pores, and we could give it to other people. And I wish that we could, but we can't. So they're looking at everything. People are just looking at everything. This is a serious problem. You know, if we talk about what's coming in the world, we had this 2008, this ridiculous housing crisis, right? And they're giving loans to people they shouldn't give loans to, and there was a lot of default and all these. It just crushed the economy there for a while. This is what's next, and I'm not trying to be an economist by any stretch, but this is what's next. Obesity is going to crush the world, and it's going to happen through rising healthcare costs. The pandemic, we could talk about COVID-19 all you want, but it's small potatoes compared to what this is. But the reason people don't care about this as much is because I can't cough obesity onto you, you know.
Yep.
But apparently when there's transmission possibility, the world takes a pandemic very seriously. But this is killing way more people than any current pandemic, and will continue to year over year, and is much more serious, has a lot more implications than COVID. But we're not, as a society, we don't take it very seriously because I cannot cough obesity onto you. And that's the only reason people don't care, is they think it's that your personal choice, and it kind of is. And one of the big takeaways they're saying is the only thing that we know for a fact, like, we could talk about keto, we could talk about fasting, we could talk about all these like hormonal strategies, but the only thing the science keeps coming back to over and over and over again is that you need to eat less and exercise more. You need to have a negative energy balance. You can't have this positive energy balance. If you have a positive energy balance, meaning more calories than you're burning, you're going to gain weight. That's where the science lands every single time. And there are a lot of cool other strategies out there, but it normally comes down to you don't exercise enough, your body's not burning enough calories, and you're eating too many of them. And it's very simple calculus from there. And so that's what they were looking at. They wanted to go deeper into, okay, why skipping breakfast? Well, there are a lot of people who are torn on this thing. They're not just talking about intermittent fasting. And I kind of get annoyed with people sometimes too, when they're like, oh, fasting, yeah, it's called skipping breakfast. I've been doing it for years. And it's like, when did you stop eating? What time did you start eating when you quote unquote skipped breakfast? It's very different than fasting. Okay. And that's not what intermittent fasting is, unless you're doing, like, I'd say a 16-8 or less. If you're doing anything less than 16-hour fast, I'm not sure that it matters that much that you're doing it. Like, we encourage our athletes to fast for at least 12 hours, but that has a lot more to do with giving your digestive system a break, not necessarily because we want you to lose weight through some sort of fasting strategy. So anyway, they were looking at it because there are some correlation lines drawn between skipping breakfast and obesity and being overweight. Ultimately, their takeaway was, it's that the study provides minimal evidence that breakfast skipping might lead to weight gain in the onset of being overweight and obesity. But they had a secondary conclusion. Evidence from observational studies indicate that in real world settings, breakfast skipping might lead to weight gain in the onset of overweight and obesity. So very contradictory there. But there is the main thing I got from this, and we can talk about fasting and everything, but I want to throw it to you guys in a minute, was there is something to be said about skipping breakfast and how it could possibly lead to weight gain. And I want to, it might not be this like scientific fact, but we're looking at a meta-analysis, a systematic review. Like, there were a lot of studies included here. And normally the findings from these types of studies are hard to refute. And so they kind of point into both directions there. And I give from a scientific standpoint, they don't want to say 100%. They use the word might there. And we can get into these things. But I want to talk about the full picture of skipping breakfast and what that means for our athletes. But what did you guys pull from the study?
One of the main things that or one of the first things I thought about is what you already mentioned, is that intermittent fasting, how breakfast skipping is not intermittent fasting. That's not what we do for it. It's basically, it's just you're moving your meals closer together, and that will change depending on your fasting window. And like, if you have, even if you skip breakfast, if you have coffee with sugar and milk in it, then you're not fasting. You're not actually skipping breakfast. You're actually having your calories right there, kind of thing. So that's one thing I wanted to really distinguish. And like, I was kind of wondering how they defined breakfast. Some of them had like loose terms, like, eating before 10 a.m. or something like that is breakfast, and it just depends on what the study was. Another thing is that, like, I know a lot of people, for at least for the longest time, I know when, a decade ago when I was in the military or active duty, people always talked about, it went with the whole thing of, you having to eat every 2.5 hours because it keeps your metabolism active, or keeps it ramped up. So you have to have breakfast in the morning because it kickstarts your metabolism, so you digest more and faster, than you have to eat again in 2.5 hours. And that's pretty much remaining to not be true. Even though a lot of the studies on this said that, eating breakfast is better for you, I don't think it's because of that. I think a lot of it also depends on how you define breakfast as well. A lot of the American quick breakfasts aren't exactly healthy for you. So even if you are eating breakfast, you still might not be getting the right nutrients. And if you're skipping breakfast and then eating something that's not exactly healthy, you're probably going to have more cravings throughout the day, and therefore snack more, therefore making unhealthy lunch choices and such, so that what you're eating is worse for you than if you were to actually like have something nutritious in the morning, or like if you eat more of something that's more nutritious versus like skipping a meal and then eating a bunch of crap later and thinking, oh, okay, I skipped breakfast, I'm fine. That's not really how it works. And I think there's that mentality that goes through a lot of things as well, that people think, oh, because I skipped this meal, I can kind of be a little bit more loose with my other choices, or I don't need to work out because I skipped this meal. So I think like how they did this study was, it's cool to see how the skipping of breakfast is or isn't, compared to BMI. But I think that is just like the start of what else could be going on. And some of these they were monitoring or questioning them for like 5 or so years. But it's what else that skipping of a meal, of a breakfast, leads to more of. That is, I think, also more of a factor. It's you need a little bit more of a bigger, like more details, more of the full picture than just what's going on with skipping breakfast. But those are the two of the main things that I was thinking of, are other choices that are being affected by skipping a meal, and that intermittent fasting, the whole timing part of it. Kyle.
So I was kind of conflicted on this, whether I liked it or not, just because the results seem to be contradictory, because some of the studies they looked at seemed to support skipping breakfast and some of them didn't. It was just kind of but it was also the way each study was designed. It wasn't measuring the exact same thing over time. And so it was kind of hard to make everything say the exact same thing. And so I think that's kind of why they came to the conclusion it might lead to weight gain. But like what Joe was talking about, one of these studies that followed people longitudinally over 5 years showed an average of 1.5 kilogram of weight gain over 5 years. For those of you not on the metric system, that's 3.3 pounds. 3 pounds over 5 years of weight difference. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's just, I don't know, that's just not very conclusive. As far, they skip breakfast and they gain weight. Okay, they gain 3 pounds over 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people fluctuate that much in a week. But at the same time, I really agree with Joe, and that's one of the points that I was going to bring up as well, is what are the other decisions that you're making with your nutrition during the day? oh, I skipped breakfast, now I can eat whatever I want. No, that's not what it is. And I would say I used personally time restricted feeding, also known as intermittent fasting. I used it to lose 65 pounds of weight. You know what I mean? And so I went from, from eating at a regular time every day that I had for years and years and years to moving things into one shorter, smaller time window. And, so by looking at that, somebody who didn't fully understand the strategy, by looking at that, they would say, oh, you skipped breakfast and you lost 65 pounds. And it's like, well, no, that's not exactly what I did. Right. But at the same time, moving things and quote unquote skipping breakfast didn't lead to weight gain for me. It led to weight loss, and it's what led to weight management. And so I just kind of feel like, don't take something like this. And we say this all the time, especially with nutritional studies that we cover. Don't just take the title of the study or the conclusion of the study and say, okay, this is what I have to do. It's like they say skipping breakfast leads to weight gain, so I don't need to skip breakfast. And it's like, well, it's a lot more nuanced than that. And I feel like if you take a holistic approach to nutrition and understand the nuances of it and understand the strategies and implement the strategies properly, then there's a lot of different things that you can do nutritionally. And skipping breakfast may be one of those things that you could do if you use the strategy properly. But I think just straight up saying skipping breakfast makes you gain weight, nope. I don't think that's what the study says at all. And I don't think that's what real life says at all either.
Yeah, it's a complicated one, and I think there are a lot of, you don't gain weight from one strategy, and that's why
Right.
I started with the whole, it's multifactorial, like, and it has to do with just your energy balance, whether you're positive or negative at the end of every single day or over the course of a week is going to be the most important thing. Because this one, I don't even know. I think that this review did not enjoy the studies they ended up with, because they don't cherry pick them. They don't cherry pick studies. What they do is they set parameters for studies, and then they go find the studies that fit their parameters. And they often start with hundreds of studies, and then they whittle it down to like this. They have like 9, 10, whatever. And then that's where they go from there. And so I think their ultimate conclusion from the abstract was the study provides minimal evidence that breakfast skipping might lead to weight gain in the onset of overweight and obesity. So that's their like small conclusion, but I think that's just because they, like you're saying, Kyle, the evidence is weak. The studies weren't that great, but whatever. There's another study or another line I pulled straight from the study. It says all 9 studies included in the review reported a statistically significant association between breakfast skipping and overweight/obesity or weight gain. Moreover, 8 out of 9 studies displayed that breakfast skipping increased the relative risk for overweight, obesity, or weight gain, respectively, compared to eating breakfast. And so what this shows me is don't half-ass anything, is my takeaway from these things. Like I told my dad about intermittent fasting a long time ago, and he kind of gave me that same thing. I don't eat breakfast. We're good to go. But yeah, he pours 6 tablespoons of half and half in his coffee, which is like 300 calories. You're skipping breakfast, right? Okay. And your last meal was at 10 p.m. Okay. Yeah. You're skipping breakfast. That's not fasting. So if you want to take one of these strategies, you have to do what Kyle did and be strict. I'm not going to eat a single calorie for 16 hours. I'm not going to eat a single calorie for 20 hours. And then I have a 4-hour feeding window, or I have an 8-hour feeding window. So if you're going to use one of these strategies, use it and it will work, but don't half-ass it with this. I skipped breakfast and so I'm fine. Check the box. You really have to dive into what you're doing. So that's my takeaway. If you half-ass things, you get half-ass results. And if you go all in, you'll probably see results like Kyle did. That's it. We good?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I mean, yeah. There's only so much of a rabbit hole you can go into with this sort of review, but yeah, I think it just shows that nutrition in general isn't a simple, straightforward topic or subject. Even when you're doing a study and a review, there's still multiple things you can branch off with and consider when it comes to nutrition. That's just, it makes it hard to give straight advice, because it's kind of like every advice comes with a caveat or,
I just know everyone's heard what you said. Like, yeah, you got to keep your metabolism going. So like throw some, like we're robots. I love the robot. Like anytime someone compares our bodies to like a car, like don't ever use that example with me ever. Okay. Like don't ever be like, yeah, it's like a car, you know, you got to put gas. No, it's not. We're not like a car at all. You know, and so these things that you've heard, you have to pick apart what works and doesn't work. And so people are saying, yeah, eat breakfast, eat small meals, keep doing that. That may have been terrible advice. And now this, if you were to just read the headlines, you're like, okay, eat breakfast. Well, ultimately, if you're eating too many calories, you're going to gain weight, and so you really have to factor in everything and be smart when you're choosing your strategies for health and fitness.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking about too. It's like if somebody reads the title of the study, maybe even they read the abstract, right, and they just say, "Okay, I need to start eating breakfast because I was skipping breakfast before." And then
even if you're reading abstracts of studies, you're way beyond the average population here. So yeah, I agree with you.
And they say, "Okay, I need to start eating breakfast. I haven't been eating breakfast," and so then they swing by McDonald's on the way to work every morning. I ate my breakfast. I'm not going to gain weight. You know what I mean? It's like science. And it's like, no, like you're going to be better off skipping breakfast than eating McDonald's for breakfast every day. You know, you have to, there's just so much nuance that goes to nutrition, especially. And it's just so hard to throw general. I mean, just us sitting here on this call, like the three of us all have different nutritional needs. And like, our nutritional needs have changed over time. Like I'm still like exploring mine, you know what I mean? I'm still trying to narrow in on the ones that I have just specifically, and mine are going to be different from yours. And to me, the general principle is you need to drink enough water and you need to eat real food. But the specific real food you need to eat is going to be different than me. You know what I mean? But you need to drink enough water. You need to eat real food. But you need to figure out which real foods you need to be eating. And you need to figure out for you what works for timing. Like if you need to eat breakfast or you need to do, time restricted feeding, put it in a window, whatever it is that you need to do, but you have to figure it out. You know what I mean? And find somebody to help you, maybe, but it's going to be specific for you. So.
All right, let's get to the topic. We're talking negativity today and how that fits in with your life. I'm sure we all experience certain degrees of negativity, both personally and professionally and internally that we're not even aware of. And it's a big factor. I think it can make for a much worse and smaller life than people realize when they are surrounded by negativity or they exude negativity. And especially, bringing this back to the fitness and health space, it's very easy to encounter that with unsupportive people and things of that nature. I'm leaving this very open-ended. You guys can take it whatever direction you want. Thoughts on negativity and dealing with it?
So I am a huge proponent on you do you. You just need to worry about what you are doing and how you want to do it, and not what other people think you should do or how to do it, because they don't know your situation, your goals, your whatever. And as we talk about with nutrition, some things what wouldn't even work for you that might have worked for somebody else. There's all the time, we always get, whether it's emails, messages, or whatever, of, some of our athletes that might be newer, they'll go work out with somebody that they know, one of their friends, and their friend might give them advice and say, hey, my friend said that I should be doing this. I should be doing these reps instead of these reps, or they said I should be eating this instead of what you guys said for this or whatever. And so what do you think? And I'm like, well, that might work for your friend and what they want, but they don't know what you're doing or what we're doing. So you need to worry about what you're doing and what you're saying. Unless you're like actually hiring somebody to think for you, then just unsolicited advice and worrying about what other people are doing is not not going to be it could really weigh you down. I know that's might just be advice in general versus negativity, but that just works with for anybody who tries to eat, like, eat healthy and takes their food into the office. no matter what, there's people in the office that are always going to have their comments about the healthy food that you're eating because they're eating some other kind of crap, and they might have like their fun and make jokes or whatever. But that's some of the negativity that people deal with a lot, and it almost feels like you should be ashamed for eating healthy. So that's why I was saying, like, you just need to do you. And when I was going to an office and stuff and eating like that, if anything, you should flaunt it. Like, who cares what they're saying? You know what you're doing. You're trying to better yourself. If they're really, what you're hearing is just almost like jealousy. Like, people wish they could be doing certain things, so they're just gonna make jokes to make themselves feel more comfortable, and I guess just socialize it a little bit. But really, you're kind of leading the way. So again, I think the main thing with negativity is just worrying about yourself. Also with negativity, if you are getting a lot and they're just starting to weigh you down, I think have certain distractions that might help you in to pull your mind away from it. So if you're in a negative situation or just around a lot of negative people, have some sort of uh yeah way to take yourself out of it, whether it's reading something, going to listen to music, a book, doing something distraction with your mind, just to, like, because sometimes with negativity it's really hard to get out of your mind, and then it just keeps the longer it's on your mind, the more it weighs you down and down and down, and it could keep you from being productive, from working out, from doing something else. So I think you just need to take a step back and, like, do something to take it out of your mind, and then wait for you, and then just, like, refocus so that you can try to reframe of, like, okay, this really isn't that negative, even though I'm getting this critique right now, it's I shouldn't worry too much about it because of X, Y, and Z. So I think having some sort of welcoming distraction for certain um, negativity, and, like, if somebody's being nitpicky or uh, just any sort of comments that you might get that are negative, I think it's just have a way to either shield you from it or distract you from that, to kind of regroup and refocus a little bit. Kyle, I'm gonna let you go before I go too long.
Well, I appreciate you taking all of my points, so I'll try to make up something new now. I really like what you're talking about with having something to distract you, and I think it kind of plays into what I was going to say is, especially when it comes to, like, personal negativity, when I'm like that negative self-talk, or I start getting down on myself based on things that other people have said, or things not going the way that I expect them to go or wanted them to go, things like that. So the distraction, if you will, that I use for that is my faith. And I wouldn't really classify it as a distraction, but just kind of to, use your point. That's kind of what I use. I use my faith, my Christian faith. So I read my Bible. I'm constantly filling my head with those things, with things from the Bible. I constantly spend time in prayer. If there's some kind of negativity that comes around, then I use prayer to kind of refocus my mind on where I need to go and what I need to be paying attention to, and things like that. And so I think that's kind of something, and it doesn't have to be that for everybody, but my point with that would just be, find something that's bigger than you, find something that's outside of you that you devote yourself to, and that is what's kind of drawing you towards where you want to go, and that is what kind of helps you have that focusing point. It's a something to bring you back into focus. So when you start getting distracted by things that want to derail you, things that want to pull you away, you need to have something that you're actually pointed towards to refocus you, so that you can ignore those things and keep pressing forward. And for me, that's my faith. I would also say, I think a lot of this negativity, when people hear about negativity and dealing with it, I think a lot of people these days think about social media. And believe it or not, here at Garage Gym Athlete, we deal with some social media negativity too. Like, we have some people who send us negative messages and negative comments and things like that. And so we have strategies here with dealing with those things. But I would say personally, if you're dealing with some negativity on social media, get off social media for a minute or two. Just ignore it. Just stay off of it. I think, to me, that's the easiest way to deal with negativity, is just completely remove yourself from it. And, I understand, like I said,
or
we
better
use it for
curate
work.
your following, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Ditch people. I heard of this, I didn't start implementing this, but I heard of this strategy that somebody used for their Facebook. Like every day they would see, Facebook reminds you of whose birthday it is that day, out of your friends list. Every day it says, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. And it's like, well, if that person's name pops up and it's their birthday today, and I don't have the willingness to like go to their Facebook wall and say happy birthday to that person on Facebook, I'm obviously not a very close friend to that person. So get rid of them. They're not your
I'd have
friend.
0 friends if I followed
I
that
have
strategy.
0 friends.
I'm just saying that's one strategy
I've
that
never
people
once
can use.
I like don't even do it for my parents or my brother.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but that's kind of one that maybe you could use. Of some people who do like write happy birthday to people, they actually care about those kinds of things. Like if somebody pops up and it's their birthday and you wouldn't tell them happy birthday, then maybe curate your following a little bit, cut it down a little bit. But anyway, those are things that I would say.
All right. So my take on negativity, yeah, just kind of starting where you left off on social media. Like my Instagram, like who I follow on Instagram, a lot of them are like our athletes, people like that, other fitness professionals. I followed like 1 or 2 political people when the election was going on and stuff, and I realized how ridiculous that can be. And so I don't follow anybody like that. I don't follow anybody who has the slightest political opinion or viewpoint. And it's actually fairly easy to do. So I think that's why I said curate your following, because if you were to log into my Instagram and scroll through my feed, all you would see are people doing like back squats and running and like talking about, like, that's it. Like that's all you would see. You wouldn't see things about COVID and like all this other crap like that. Just wouldn't, other than like the random person who wants to post about it here and there. Like I'm not really seeing that stuff. So it is possible. But yeah, we get a ton of negativity and have over the years. I've been doing this for like a decade now. I've dealt with a lot of that on my own, just from emails I've gotten, messages. We run a lot of Facebook ads, things like that. And so I used to engage with that stuff quite a bit. I used to, but you know what? I'm going to change your mind. And we all know it's not possible, right? But I would argue with these people and get into fights with them. And then I realized, one, it's kind of like political arguments, like I just watched some comedian on Netflix and he's like, what's never happened in the history of social media ever? Someone's response being, good point, I've changed my mind. Yeah. Like, that statement has never been written on social media ever. And so there's no really point in engaging that. But what really released me from even not only not engaging, because not engaging is one thing, but actually not caring or getting any sort of like emotional response is the next level. And that's the level I've gotten to now, is that I realize people who comment negatively or do negative things, they have something broken in them. And if that's you, yeah, I'm calling you out right now. You have something broken in you. There's something unfulfilled in your life, something you're not happy about, for you to go and attack other people online. And so once I realized that, you're saying a bunch of mean stuff. I mean, if that's not true, then the alternative is you're just an asshole, which might even be worse, And so I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but 90% of the time, those people are dealing with a lot of things personally that they're going through. It could be things that we don't even know about: a divorce, a death in the family, something like that, or yeah, they're unfulfilled with their career, their life choices, something like that. And there's a jealousy factor. There's something going in there, but that's typically where a lot of these negativity things come from. And once I realized that, I completely, I don't engage at all. A lot of my comments, if I do respond back, have to do with like, hey, let me know if I can help you in any way, which seems passive aggressive. And they get even more angry, but that's not even actually my attempt. I'm actually like, hey, do you need some assistance? Like, do you need some help? And that really pisses off somebody who's trying to get a rise out of you. And you're like, is there a number? Here's a number you should call. So yeah, dealing with it that way and realizing that most of the time people are negative in social media settings has to do with themselves more than anything else. But those people around you, moving to your closer circle, I think that I always think that change has to start with you, not other people. So a lot of times I think that it is good advice to remove yourself from a negative situation, but like, what if your spouse is negative or your brother, like something you can't really like remove yourself. You could, especially if it's your spouse, that's very unfortunate. Like you're not able to like, you could leave that situation, right? There is an option for that, but that's not what we want to do. So I think it starts with you. And I work on this constantly. I do not have it mastered, but I try with myself to not complain. And I feel like I do really good for a certain amount of time, and then I slide back into it. But we've all been a part of like groups of friends where like what they want to go do is complain about their job. Like, hey, let's go hang out and complain about our job, or let's go hang out and complain about our wives. And that's like, I get into like meeting with old friends and stuff, and that's what they want to do, complaining about their job or complaining about some work they had to do or complaining about how busy they are. I can't stand those things. And I do these things myself too, so like what I'm saying, I'm nowhere close to perfect. It's like something built within us as humans that we want to, vent to somebody, but I just try to remove that as much as I can. So I think that's where negativity has to start, is stopping it within yourself. So positive self-talk when you do find yourself negatively talking to yourself, but also I think complaining. If you can stop complaining, even in the smallest capacity, it makes you a more fun person to be around. And people won't even realize, like, why do I like being around Kyle? It's like, it's because Kyle doesn't complain. You don't know why you like being around Kyle. It's because Kyle doesn't complain. That's why Kyle's so cool. People don't realize these things, but these are the things that happen when you stop complaining. And like I said, it's natural for a lot of us to do, but I think that's where this whole thing starts.
Agreed.
Kyle complains all the time, though.
Yeah, that was just a nice example, but man,
that was a passive aggressive way of Jerred telling me to stop complaining so much.
Well, I'm sure that you guys, have your complaints here and there about things that we do here and things that our athletes do and all that stuff. Whether you say them out loud or keep them in your head, it's a big factor in how you treat the next day. The big factor, whether or not you're even motivated to do the next day. And these are the things that I'm trying to be aware of, as I want to do this for a really long time, and I don't want to start every day with like thinking of how much something's going to suck. Right. And so I want to think of all the things that are awesome. And so that's why I try to put my head in that space as much as I can.
Yeah. I think actually like starting the day, right, is makes a huge difference. Like if you're somebody who knows you're probably going to deal with some negativity that day, maybe do something earlier on that is less negative, that you can control, that you enjoy more, so that your mind is more mentally ready and stronger and stable and to going into that. So if you do deal with like customer support and like, oh, well, I'm going to get on customer support, someone's probably going to be complaining about something today. Maybe I should start my day with something else first so that I'm much better off. So that's another thing that you can kind of do. I know last year or the year before, however long it was, I moved my workouts earlier because there was just so much negative stuff going on today. Because if I was getting all this negativity after a few hours of just life and everything, I was just like, I really don't want to work out. I don't think I'm going to work out today. I'm already mentally exhausted and fatigued from just all this crap that I'm dealing with right now. So I made that shift to work out earlier because I knew things like that. And you could do that with kind of anything, maybe it's eat breakfast. Who knows?
There you go. Bringing it all back.
Yeah. All together.
And now I'll transition us to Condition Me to the Grave as our workout this week. So let's quickly go over this one. Does anyone have it prepared? Too brief?
I mean, you should have it fresh in your mind, didn't you?
I don't even remember it. Well, you do some running, some double unders, what is Condition Me to the Grave again?
I got
it.
Okay. We'll see. The workout with machines. So it's a 100 cal row, 100 cal airdyne, 100 double unders, run 1 mile. Then it's 75 cal row, 75 cal airdyne, 75 double unders, run 1 mile. 50 cal row, 50 cal airdyne, 50 double unders, run 1 mile, 25 cal row, 25 cal airdyne, and 25 double unders. That's the workout with machines. The workout without machines is completely different.
The robots.
Yep. 100 sumo deadlifts, 100 box step ups, 100 double unders, run 1 mile. Then it's 75 of each, run 1 mile, 50 of each, run 1 mile, 25 of each. and you're done. That's it.
Tips. Did you mention time cap?
I don't believe is there a time cap?
60-minute.
Yeah. 60 and that's very important in this one, because if you don't get the 60-minute time cap, you didn't do the workout. Because I think that should be the goal for Condition Me to the Grave, is finish it under the time cap. And we talk about this normally when we brief it. If you're doing it with machines, you probably will finish under the time cap. Not machines, I mean. It's easier without machines, much harder with machines, and much harder to hit that time cap. But I guess I'll go first on tips, because I don't have a lot with this one. I've almost died doing this one. I've talked about that before. So it's got a great name. And I just think pacing is, I'm in Joe's camp, which is always the pacing camp for Joe. And I agree 100%. I always point to the pacing card that I normally post in the group when we're doing this one, so people know, like, realistically what you have to do, because this one messes with your mind a little bit, because it's bigger chunks at the beginning and then it gets smaller and smaller. So you could literally be at 40 minutes into the workout and you're like, there's no way I'm going to hit the time cap. And it kind of plays with your mind a little bit, but you have much less work to do, and it still is possible. So once you know, like, here's how much time you need to do these things, I think it becomes really important. And then the only thing that you can't really change are those miles, right? And so don't half-ass the miles. It's not like run your hardest that you possibly can, but mile 1, don't run in 7 minutes, and then mile 2, you run in 12 minutes. Like, pick a pace that you think that you're going to be able to sustain every time you hit the mile, and try and keep that pace. But that's about it for me, tactic wise.
So I have a new one on this one that I just thought about, and that is, especially if you're tracking like heart rate and you're used to doing conditioning and sustaining certain efforts, and that is to pick a max semi-uncomfortable heart rate sustainability pace and keep that for the duration, basically. So if you think you can sustain at about 85% or 83 to 85%, then try and keep that throughout, and that will be kind of your pacer. And if you feel you need to, then go faster. And the double unders, just go as fast as possible. And the second one is, if you have any other questions at all, even if it's what footwear to wear, tag Jason Wood. This is a little bit of payback for him. Tag Jason Wood. Any question you have with this workout, he's doing it every week. If it's, whatever it is, weather, anything for this workout, because he's doing it every week, and tag him, Jason Wood.
Yeah. I think you guys covered it. I would say if you don't want to do this one, an alternative would be to go climb a mountain. So,
yep.
And that counts as a meet yourself Saturday.
That will condition you to the grave.
Yep. There you go.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast or watching if you're on YouTube. We do appreciate those things. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, a lot more video content coming your way in the next couple of weeks. Got a lot of great stuff planned. Stay subscribed to the audio version. We are going to kind of split and start doing different stuff in both directions. So you have to pick which camp you want to be in and how you want to consume our content. But not our problem. You gotta pick where you want to be. If you're not a part of our training, though, do fix that problem. Go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. We'd love to have you in the program, show you the community, show you what real programming looks like. Don't be intimidated by what we're doing here. It's very doable for anybody at any level. Even though we might seem a little bit hardcore at times, we can handle the hardcore. We can also handle the absolute beginner. But that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.